Hey y'all, we are back with another Mighty Multimedia Topics. It is the holiday season, specifically we are talking about the Christmas season. As you can see, I dressed for the occasion. This is one of my favorite ugly sweaters, but it's not even ugly, so I don't even think you can call it that, but one of my favorite Christmas sweaters, among many, mind you. I have a large collection of awesome, not ugly, some of them are ugly, Christmas sweaters. So dressing for the occasion. It is, that time of year. Everyone's enjoying all types of different Christmas things, whatever it be. Time with your family. I guess that's cool. Just kidding. I love my family. Christmas songs, Christmas wear, Christmas foods, everything, all of that. But of course, this is a media channel. So we are talking about today for today's episode. We are breaking down the best Christmas movies of all time. This is going to be a cool one. I am really excited. I love Christmas movies, some more than others, obviously, as we will soon see. But I think this is going to be really good. I'm sure people have some opinions about these. Everyone's been watching most of these since they were extremely young, so they've definitely seen it a few times. Definitely have some opinions, so I love that. Before we get into it, I want to make a big disclaimer that I will not waver on, just to make sure these will not going to be a list. The following movies do not count as Christmas movies: Die Hard and Home Alone. Not Christmas movies. Christmas is the setting of the movie. It takes place around Christmas, but the movies themselves have absolutely nothing to do with Christmas. They're not about, the Christmas spirit, family, whatever you want to talk about. There's a bunch of different components to a Christmas movie. Those movies do not have it. Some people might fight me on it, but those will not be appearing on this list because they are indeed not Christmas movies. We are starting from the bottom, as you do, with number 10. Yeah, we're doing 10 of them, which feels like a lot, I know. But I was just kind of going through everything, and 10 was the number I settled on. That was the natural one. And yeah, there are 10 solid Christmas movies out there. As well, I cheated a little bit here and there. There's some collections of Christmas movies, so that'll be on this list, and we'll get to those. And actually, my little fudging of the numbers starts with number 10, because at the bottom here, we have the Santa Clauses franchise. So that includes the Santa Claus, well, it's just called the Santa Claus, but Santa Claus 1 from 1994, Santa Claus 2 from 2002, and Santa Claus 3, again, I don't think they use 3, they might use 3, whatever. And it is entitled The Escape Clause from 2006. So, these are definitely fun. I think something I really like about these is how creative the mechanisms and the magic and everything of Santa and his operation in the North Pole works. That's really good. It's definitely an updated, more modern take. It's in the more modern time frame of actually being produced, but some modern movies have gone back in time to use some of the classic, again, mechanisms and on those sort of lines. But this updates a lot. I don't know, whether it be the increasing of the size of the chimneys and the snow globes and a lot of the technology they have and the floating bag and all of this stuff. I think a lot of that works. I think it's creative and a lot of fun. Right? Tim Allen leads this, and he's really good, definitely. I think, he's had some problems as an actor, but that's okay, I will. And there's another one, we'll talk about that as well. But as an actor, he's pretty solid. He, in some ways, is Mr. Christmas, doing all these, and a few others that we'll talk about as well. And I think he's a good headline cast. He's definitely got that, outward personality, the jolly family focused nature and all that works pretty well. Of course, this is down at the bottom, right, at number 10. So it's better than some, but there's a lot more better than it. A few of the reasons why it is down here so low, is I do think there are some hits and misses in this franchise with the three. the analogy, the comparison with some of these movies is a little tough because they aren't franchises, but it's best to take this as a whole, I think. I don't know really what you want to call a hit or miss. That's pretty subjective. I think the first one is really good, but it suffers from a little bit of the technology. The third one is fun, but not super tight. The second one is, again, good. It's a mixed bag, is my general kind of thesis there. And the other one is that, again, there's some really good, solid family fun, but the movies are also filled with cliches and awkwardness, and I think a lot of it stems from kind of trying to bridge that divide between the adult audience and the younger audience, and the modern world, and the legend of Santa and the history of Santa, and all these different things. Really bridging that together creates some weird tension. There's some jokes that land, there's a lot that don't. So for those reasons, that's why it's down here at 10. Moving right along, at number 9, we have Fred Claus from 2007. So this is another quasi-comedy movie. This is more comedy than the Santa Clauses, but it is headed by another comedy kind of focused actor. This one being Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn is a legend. He has a bunch of great hits. And I think this one is among that list. It is, so we just talked about how, these movies are more in the modern day, and there's been a lot done beforehand. And again, that is very true. This one, I think particularly, even more early as well. 2007 is not that long ago at all. There hasn't been too many Christmas movies, at least too many good Christmas movies made since that point. But there was a lot of different takes on Santa Claus and the story of Christmas and how you can play with that, especially in the modern day. And this is such a unique take. I love it. It's such a great idea. The brother of Santa Claus is just pure gold. A lot of good ideas can stem from that, and we saw it unfold on the screen, right? I mean, just the idea of this family living, being immortal at some point, whatever it was. I mean, at least a few thousand years, presumably, kind of seemed what they were doing. Also a great opening scene. I mean, the baby is freaking terrifying, don't get me wrong. But when getting into that and starting this brotherly, it's more than competition, I was going to say, or just kind of butting heads. I mean, it develops into hate, at least later on. But living for so long, you're gonna have some testy moments and everything like this. Not having, I don't remember what it was, but not seeing your family for decades upon decades, whatever that is. And also just Vince Vaughn dealing with being immortal. That's gotta be a lot more difficult. They just kind of choose to push that aside and ignore it. But that's gonna be so hard. I mean, what is he just like moving from city to city every time and changing his identity and getting a new social security, or he doesn't have an identity? Blah, 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 blah. I don't know. It was probably a good idea for them to ignore all of that. But also they dealt with all this immortal stuff. Doesn't matter. But the frameworks, the way to set up a movie is just gold. I love it. It's a cynical take, at least at the beginning, which is not super common in most Christmas movies, which is a reason I think that this is definitely on this list and a little higher. The good thing about it is that naturally through the plot and through characters' relationships and growing and such, the movie ends on a super upbeat, hopeful tone, right? But throughout most of the movie, it is extremely cynical. Vince Vaughn plays cynical pretty well, so very in his wheelhouse. That works. The hatred of these brothers. I mean, having your older brother be freaking Santa Claus has got to be tough. Even a really good-natured person would find some animosity and some jealousy over the years. You see the parents are just totally feeding into it. Again, it's been a long time. I'm sure they've gone over this same thing many times before. But they feed into it, just like, why don't you be like your brother, whatever. He's freaking Santa Claus. What do you want me to do, Mom? Vince Vaughn could be a little bit more forgiving, could have a little bit more holiday cheer, but again, they're taking the cynical route. I think that's just a fantastic idea. The other good cast members on this, Paul Giamatti, freaking Paul Giamatti, is Santa Claus. Never would have thought that would work, but it absolutely 100% totally does, and I absolutely love it. He's playing something else than a manager, and he's killing it. And then the other one is Kevin Spacey. So Kevin Spacey, obviously, in the news nowadays for not very good reasons, but I really am of the belief that we need to make sure that we separate the actor and the acting performance, or more, we need to separate the acting performance from who the actor is as a person and what they do on away from the screen, because we can't let these kind of things ruin movies that we love, performances that we love, that mean so much to family, to friends, to whoever, just you as a person. It just being a piece of art that's out there. You know, that art was created in a time and place, and it's not about any of the other people. It's just about making the best possible work, best possible final product that you can. And I think that taking these actors and, you know, boycotting a film or a movie or a book or whatever it is, and, you know, stepping away from it and refusing to read it or watch it, even if you love it a lot because of that, you know, you're kind of conflicting morals, you're trying to be a high-minded person. I think it's too much. I don't think you have to worry about it. You don't have to like them as a person. You really, really don't. But you can like the piece of art that they were a part of, that their skills and talent and effort helped to create. Also, there's a lot of other people that were that made that product happen that wasn't just them. So that's also discounting a lot of work they did. So that's all to say that I like Kevin Spacey's performance, really like Kevin Spacey's performance in this movie, despite Kevin Spacey doing whatever. He does really well in this as the evil government clerk. Like, by the way, like, the government knows about Santa and they control him or whatever. Crazy idea. Another cynical take, another cynical aspect in this larger take. And he is auditing Santa, and he has a grudge against Santa, and then he becomes really good at the end with the Superman cape and the glasses. Paul Giamatti's Clark Kent speech at the very end to get him to turn back the light. Just great. And then the last little bit I just want to throw out here is second to last is that last montage of Vince Vaughn and Willie the Elf going out and giving all these presents when Paul Giamatti's hurt is just fantastic. It's got the Christmas rapping song, which this is the only time I've ever heard it, but it works so well for the movie, so well for the scene. The montage is fantastic. And there's other few little things I just want to point out and just want to kind of harp on, make sure I don't miss from the world, from the little Secret Service elves, my bad, to Santa. Ludacris as the DJ, sure, whatever. And then the female elf, I don't remember her name, is like human size. Is there more of a story with that or whatever? But then Willie, the actual elf, likes her. I don't know how that's going to work as well. Also, those both two are from Pitch Perfect. They go back to, which is, I mean, that's amazing. Because Pitch Perfect came out in like 2008, 2009, maybe even later. Either way, this had to be first. I wonder if they kind of saw that chemistry a little bit. That's great. One of my favorite jokes comes from Pitch Perfect 2 with those two. They do a lot of great things. But it's the guy, and they're at the Worlds, and Pitch Perfect is obviously representing America, and the big ones that they're going against is Germany, and they're hyping it up, doing a promo right before they go on stage, and the guy says something to the effect of, "This could be the biggest conflict ever against these two countries in history," and he just goes, not looking, completely like making eye contact just with the camera, or with the audience or whatever, and doesn't make eye contact with him whatsoever, just says, "Crack a book, John." It's going to be less funny after I explain what it is, but I'm going to point it out anyway. Obviously, he's talking about World War II. Actually, you can even throw World War I in there if you want. But they are comedy gold. They're not the focus of this, but it is a good little split. Been talking too much about this movie. Gotta get some more because there are plenty more to do, but Fred Claus is a good one. And number 8, we have A Christmas Story from 1983. A total classic. Cannot discount that from this movie whatsoever. It is firmly in the hearts and minds of so many people, at least in America, probably at least some places over the world. But you definitely can't take away from that at all. It is a absolutely total classic. The big reason that it is down here so low, because 8 is pretty low, again, for something I'm dubbing a classic, is that it's just so overdone nowadays. There are some other movies on here that might be overdone, but maybe I think they're just a little bit better, but also a little less overdone, because this is so much overdone. I don't remember what channel it is, but they do the 24-hour A Christmas Story marathons around Christmas. It's too much. Gotta pump the brakes. Gotta slow down. This movie's been running for an awful long time, and so many people have seen it. And it is a really solid movie, but at some point, you can wear a movie out. And I think this movie suffers from that problem a little bit. So to give it some props, it absolutely captures the feel and the spirit of what it is like to be a kid, especially back then. This is the 50s, 60s, something like that. Made in the 80s, but 50s, 60s, something along that line. The kind of post World War II. I don't know. We're talking about World War II on this Christmas episode so much, but it just happens to be ingrained in this because World War II is always important, right? Just kidding, but also not, but mostly. The narrator is awesome. He does a fantastic job, and again, really captures what it's like to be a kid. Explains the thoughts of someone so young and inexperienced and mature so extremely well. Really perfect in many instances. His intonation of when he speaks is fantastic, but I think a lot of it is the writers. Again, they're just able to capture that spirit, capture that moment in any person's life so fantastically well. And actually, there's a new movie, because there is a sequel. So it's not the sequel, it's the remake. Because there's a Christmas Story 2, which is not very good. Would not recommend watching that. But a really new movie made last year, 2 years ago, something like that. It's called 8-Bit Christmas. Neil Patrick Harris he plays like the older version or something. But so it's made nowadays. So the first one was made in the 80s, and then it was like the 50s. This one was made nowadays, and it goes back to the 80s. And that was actually a really successful remake. I think that did much of the same thing and captured what it's like to be a kid. People think that's easy. It's not. Kids are, they're naive, but they also know things. They think they know things. They have just totally different rationales and beliefs and motivations than us as adults do. And it can be very difficult for an adult to go back into the recesses of their memory and recognize and understand and then represent what that is like. It's very difficult. I think people take that for granted a lot in kids shows and movies and media in general. That's a skill. It's definitely a skill. And again, the original Christmas Story does it really well, and the new remake, 8-Bit Christmas, both do it fantastically. Yeah, for all the doubters out there, all the haters out there, I think you got to put some more respect on the creators that delve into a child's mind. So the last thing I want to do before we move along from this is just explain, again, I started this review off with, or whatever, this rank, it doesn't matter, with this off saying how much of a classic this movie is. So I just want to give it its due respect and run through how many classic, absolute classic moments are from this movie, right? You have the leg lamp, the sticking the tongue on the frozen pole, the you'll shoot your eye out, the pink bunny suit, beating up the bully, finally snapping there, eating soap, Santa Claus kicking a little kid down the slide. So many fantastic movies from this. So this ranking is not to discount the movie whatsoever. Again, I think it's mostly because it's been a little overplayed throughout the years. but still a really fantastic Christmas movie that I'm sure I and many other people will watch around this time of year. Moving on to number 7, we have the movie. Some people might not have heard of this. I don't know. It's kind of low key. It is Elf from 2003. And of course, I'm entirely kidding about that. I'm sure every single person and their grandparents have seen this movie. This review is going to be pretty brief, again, because of just how well known and how popular this movie is. It's got to be up here. It's hilarious in so many different fantastic ways. But the problem, why it's a little lower, kind of going with the Christmas Story like we just talked about. The reason for this is it's just too silly in a lot of ways. That's Will Ferrell's brand of comedy in many facets. But for me, for this model of best Christmas movies, it's really solid. It's a must watch. I've actually already seen it for this holiday season, but it's some of it's just too much for me and too much to be dubbed one of the best ever. There's more meaningful, more well done movies than this. So that's why it is a little lower, still also fantastic. Gonna do the same thing with A Christmas Story, run through some of these great moments, just because again, it's a classic that deserves this treatment. So there is the Santa fight in the what do they call it? Gimbals, I think. The toy store. That's awesome. You smell like beef and cheese. Sit on Throne of Lies. Awesome. Peter Dinklage as an elf through that fight. Call Me Elf one more time. Fantastic. The mailroom when it goes down and gets everyone drunk and dancing. The snowball fight when he's just making snowballs like crazy, nuking kids in the park. Candy on spaghetti. I can go on and on and on. Classic bits. So nothing against Elf. Will Ferrell does great. Also Scott Conn is in this. He's good too. But yeah, that's my reasoning. Take it or leave it. Number 6, we are chugging along, is the Polar Express from 2004. I actually forgot about this movie while I was making this list, which shame on me because I love it. And you can see that I like it because I put it all the way up at 6. When I forgot about it, I had to move a bunch of stuff around. I'll tell you which one got bumped off in a little bit when we go through our honorable mentions. I don't know why I forgot about this. I really do enjoy this movie. It's filled with magic and wonder up the goddamn wazoo. It's just magical. I love so much about it. Just the mystery of it is also great. So you have the great family fun and all that, and you do get into the mind of a kid in this pretty well, I would say. But you have this mystery component also. The Polar Express pulling up on the outside the house, and you get on this, and you're like mysterious. Who are these people? The whole bell situation. How does that work? And that was all magic and stuff. And then, but some of that's Christmas. And then you got the real mystery, which I really do enjoy, is the hobo on top of the train. What the hell is going on there? I want to know more about that. Maybe there's a good video or blog or something about that. I should read up on it, because he's the king of Christmas. He calls himself. What the heck was going on there in this Christmas movie and child's movie too? And then they throw in when they're walking through the carts of the train. They're trying to get a ticket, something. They're running through it, and they go in that creepy ass room with all the puppets, the wooden puppets, and it's like, what the heck was going on? This movie makes a lot of interesting choices. Maybe a reason why it's a little lower. But it also is very intriguing, and I think interesting for adults in some ways. The kids are kind of, what's going on? I'm just going to ignore. I'm going to focus on the fun things. And the adults, I think, are using a little bit more critical thinking. What the heck is this doing in this movie? So that's pretty cool. The visuals. Got to talk about the visuals. You're talking about Polar Express. Little wonky early in using this type of CGI. And doesn't work in some instances, absolutely. Some of the movements, a lot of the lip movements, but it doesn't take away from it too much. You can definitely laugh about it. You can ignore it if you choose, although you can't ignore it all the time. There's definitely some scenes that pop up and it's just, oh, you gotta give that a second look or try it a different way. Either way, with another Tom Hanks, those his voice in here. Who doesn't love Tom Hanks as a conductor singing that? Oh, we got it. The Hot Chocolate song. He's a beast. He kills it. What a monster. And then the one thing that is a little interesting is the message of this movie, which again I think is a reason that it's knocked down a little bit, because he doesn't believe in Santa, or is agnostic about Santa, the main character we're talking about, which I don't even think he's a name, which is fascinating as well. And then he just wants the bell, blah, blah, whatever. Ask for a better freaking toy, kid, whatever. And then he goes home and he has the bell and he can hear because he believes in Santa. And then his sister can hear, but then even she doesn't hear the magic anymore because she doesn't believe. But he believes in Santa because he saw Santa, because he met Santa, because he sat on Santa's lap and talked to him and saw his magic and all this. That's not the best message. The whole thing is about seeing is believing, and they talk about that, but, or believing is seeing, whatever I guess it's believing is seeing. But he doesn't, in this, seeing is believing, because he sees Santa, and that's the reason why he believes in Santa. So that's kind of crap. Similar thing with Elf. But that's less, the message is less about that, right? This is, I don't know, that feels a little off. It's a little interesting. I don't know, maybe if he just more had his mind wiped or something, but he had like a faint memory and it was more about the belief. I don't really know. There's just something a little iffy about that. And again, it's not the whole reason why it's notched down, but a little bit. Again, I'm going to say this about literally everyone because they are all awesome. Still watch it. Crossing the halfway mark, we have the newest movie on this list, I believe. We are talking about Arthur Christmas from 2011. And to be honest, I thought this was newer, but I guess I've been watching it for a while. So 2011 did surprise me a little bit. But it's pretty new. It's, 12 years. That's not that long of a time, especially all these other Christmas movies are mostly significantly older. But in my mind, this is an instant classic. I think there's many people that would disagree with me. My girlfriend doesn't love this movie. A few other people, family and friends that I know, don't love this movie. But my close family, my immediate family adores this movie. And I think rightfully so. It's fantastic. I'll be watching it for a very long time to come. First off, it is hilarious. Again, just going through a few of the bits. The rapping elf, the old decrepit grandpa Santa, the lazy current Santa, the egoist older brother, the naive, lovable Arthur, the cast, or the cast of characters. It's just fantastic. Mrs. Claus, who just absolutely knows what the hell is going down and is just holding down the fort for everything. Just making the ship run behind the scenes. Nothing would go well if not for her. So much of it works so incredibly well and leans to just comedy gold. This is a newer one. I feel like some people haven't seen it. So I'm going to kind of take a step back and let you watch this and get some of the bits. Really, really good. It's such worth a watch. But I love the idea of generations of Santa Clauses. Some play with that. The Santa Clauses trilogy plays with that, but they're not in the same time, right? As soon as a new Santa comes, as soon as new Santa dies, a new one comes. I like the idea of training Santas and people who want to be Santa, people who are currently being Santa, people who were Santa but now are retired. That dynamic is just unbeatable. And then other ones have done this. I've said this a few times, but it's great how they bring Santa into the modern world. A lot of it is technology, and a lot of this movie is fighting against technology and what Christmas means because we have all this technology. Should we use it? But it's also kind of a necessity because of the growth and the complications of our modern world. There's a real tension going there, and this goofy movie handles that very well and has something to say in that regard. And I'm just going to shut up about it. Give you my highest recommendation. If you haven't seen it, please go watch it this holiday season. At number 4, we have National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation from 1989. This is absolutely another instant classic. Enough said, don't really need to go into that. But this is also, in my opinion, and on this list, is the highest comedy movie, the highest ranked comedy movie. Because it just does everything to perfection. You know, it's hilarious, and we'll go into some of the hilarious bits as we've done of this other one. But it also captures the so real, in-your-face, practical craziness of your family, having your family, specifically around the holidays, definitely, right? Having them all together and having them all in one place and dealing with them. Because that family is crazy. I mean, you have your intimate, your immediate family. And even, you know, as you grow, that becomes more spread out. But your extended family, cousins, aunts and uncles and grandparents, is just so magical. The idea of that happening is wild. They go and have their own lives for so much of the year. Sure, you talk to them, you get updates and everything. Some people more than others. But they have all their own lives, separate lives, completely different circles, completely different things. And then they come together a few times a year and they just have to deal with each other. You're not choosing these people. You are born with them. You just have to like them, or have to at least deal with them or pretend to like them. That dynamic is, it causes problems. It's hard, but it's also magical and beautiful. The loyalty behind all of that in many ways, the breakthroughs, the support is so great, and this absolutely captures that craziness. It's just a good old-fashioned family Christmas. Of course, Chevy Chase is the king. Give his crown. Saturday Night Live, some other ones, but these specifically, the National Lampoons, and this movie specifically, he's a king. Can't take him down. He's freaking fantastic. Also, a little fun one is Leonard from the Big Bang Theory. I think it's like John Galecki, but I won't swear by that. Is the boy, his Chevy Chase's son in this. That's really fun. What a great start to an acting career. And then to just wrap all this up, again, just going over some great classic moments. The cold open, cutting down the tree, going out there and running off the road from the crazy rednecks or whatever. And then forgetting the saw out there. Doing the sled with the, whatever he calls it, spray that makes him go really far. The lights on the house. So many movies have aped off of that. Really classic. And then at the end, kidnapping the boss and then it all working out. The Jelly of the Month Club, all these fantastic things with his brother and everything. I got nothing else. Just what a wonderful, crazy, funny, loving movie. Top 3. At number 3, we have It's a Wonderful Life from 1946 with our good friend George Bailey. This is the oldest movie on this list, I believe, but I can't say enough good things about this one. It is super old, you know, it's in black and white. I wanted to show this movie to my girlfriend because I think it's, again, fantastic. She's not super into older movies, but I forced her to watch it, and it is now one of her favorite holiday movies, and I think she just loves it in general as well. So it's definitely super old, but it's just timeless. The messages in this movie are specifically timeless. You know, the world is better with you in it. Doing good pays off in the end. All of that coming together, you just can't beat it. It's a great one to sit down and, you know, reaffirm those values. Make sure you learn that lesson. I think, I don't know, I guess maybe everything's built on something, right? But I think it might be the original, you know, turn the world on its head movie and then learn a lesson. There's been so many of those since then, but this has got to be, if not the first, a very early one and a very well executed one. And you know, to do that, you have to be really particular in the setup and the payoff. And the setup and the payoff are textbook in this, right? You go through absolutely, you set everything up with the different family members, the different players, the different tensions and motifs and everything going on throughout the background. And then when you flip to the world where he wishes that he was never born, and it shows you what it was like if he was never born, it hit on all of those little pieces there and showed you exactly the flip side. Did really well. It being black and white and not having great CGI and everything, it had all these really good things as well with the mouth bleeding and hurting to show that he was back in the real world, and all those things. Those were little pieces that were really fantastic. I talked about CGI recently, and it's still true that it just, now you can do whatever you want, and it takes away from the struggle that is inherent in movies, in good movies, especially back in the day. You can put in a movie now anything you can possibly dream up. Back in the day, you had to work around practicality and the things you can physically do and the things that you can physically show, doing creative things, creative ways to make something that's not real appear real. I think there's a lot of great examples in Star Wars, also movies like The Thing, Alien, and a few of these other movies. But just, I think you can see that this movie was really working with not a lot, and what is it? Damn, I can't remember. It's like steel tempers, whatever. Like pressure hardens coal and diamonds. I think it's probably a good way to put it. There's so many different ones, right? But you get the idea that if you are put in tough situations, a lot of the times people will figure things out and the final product will be even better for it. I think this is a perfect example of that. Yes, I definitely wanted to say, just to wrap up, that this is an awesome Christmas movie, but it is also, as I've said before, this is also a great movie. I think it's probably the second best movie that is also a Christmas movie. This is an older one, so a lot of people out there probably heard about it. The every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. You have to have heard about that, but I bet a lot of people haven't actually seen it. So if you haven't seen it, go give it a watch. I know it's old, gotta push through. I promise it'll be worth it. At number 2, our penultimate ranking. I cheated again a little bit, but rightfully so, I think. So at number 2, I am putting the claymation movies. So all of these ones in the background. I have props for this one again. You know how I love props. Some of these have some that are not claymation, and we'll talk about some of these as well in just a second. But these are just the collections that I have, and you can see a lot of them. So I'll run by. This includes Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer from 1964. It includes Santa Claus is Coming to Town from 1970. It includes The Year Without a Santa Claus, or A Year Without Santa Claus. Actually, whatever it is, from 1974. And then there's some other ones, there's so many, right? But some other ones that are also not terrible. Jack Frost from 1979, and Rudolph's Shiny New Year from 1976. I think the three that I mentioned at the beginning, Rudolph, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and The Year Without Santa Claus, are the core of these claymation movies. And in fact, those are the three that I watch with my family every Christmas Eve, without wavering. It's got to be maybe at least a decade now. Those three every single time, gotta do it. It's a tradition of mine, and it's definitely a reason why they are up here, and a little biased there, but they're also fantastic. They were definitely made long ago. A lot that I talked about with A Wonderful Life goes for this, that they were dealing with the technology and the reality that they had, and they made some really impressive products, some really impressive movies out of what they could. The story behind it, the conventions, it invented many of the conventions that you see in Christmas movies nowadays. It really added to the legend of Christmas in just an unspeakably large amount. of different ways. There's just no way of, you just can't underestimate it, because there's so much that came from these movies in what we now know as Christmas. They're the original in many ways, right? And they give off this warm, old-timey, fuzzy family vibe. In the spirit of Christmas, it shows that you can appreciate as an adult, and that you can show the youngest of children. I don't think there's anything better. Yes, okay, I talked about a lot of it. I had some notes, but for this one, I was just speaking from the heart there, and I covered a lot of them really fast. But again, I hold to everything I said, and those are all true. The last one I just want to talk about was there's some really great songs in these movies. The few ones I just want to shout out are the Misers Brothers songs. Those are originals, and those are freaking fantastic. And the Year Without a Santa Claus song is a complete banger. And then also there's a bunch of classics. They're doing Santa Claus is Coming to Town. I think they do Here Comes Santa Claus at the end, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. A whole bunch, and a bunch of original songs as well. The music in these are fantastic. Again, from a long time ago. There's nothing else to say. I think that the vibes that you get going to bed on Christmas Eve after watching these are immaculate. So I would highly recommend giving that a shot. Before we get to our number one ranking, the best Christmas movie of all time, gonna run through a few honorable mentions. Some people will probably think of these as their favorites, so let me know if these should have been higher. First of all, we got Charlie Brown Christmas. It's good, right? I like it, but it's okay. It's fine. I don't know really what more to say about that. The Grinch is an interesting one. We have, which one is it on here? There's that guy. So I'll start with that because there's a few Grinches now, right? The animated version is a lot of fun. It's short. It just adapts the book. Again, it's kind of okay. The live action freaks me out. Don't like it. Jim Carrey can back off with that. A little too much for me. Same thing with The Cat in the Hat with Michael Myers. Freaking me out as a kid. Still kind of unsettles me nowadays. There's just too much. To be honest, it is pretty iconic. I wouldn't blame some people if they put the live action a little bit higher on this. Just not a huge fan. Creeps me out. And then the new one just sucks. Don't make that. Why would you make that? That was a terrible idea. I don't even know what the plan was. Awful. I have not enough bad things to say about that one. We have Frosty. Frosty is on the cover of one of these. There's the big bundle of joy. Frosty's, again, awesome. I don't know, too short, I guess, in many ways to be on this list. About a movie. It's kind of my thoughts, at least. You could throw all the Frosties together, I guess. Second one with Jack Frost isn't great, but the third one that's pretty, I think, overlooked. It's kind of good with the, I don't know what they call it, but it makes snow go away, like an evil villain. That one's kind of fun. I enjoy that one. Christmas with the Cranks. I actually really enjoy that movie. That's a pretty solid movie in general. That's actually the one that got booted off when I remembered the Polar Express. So, you know, it was at 10, so I guess maybe you can call that 11 in my mind if you want to go that route. But a lot of family fun. Tim Allen again, he's doing well. Four Christmases. I think that was just too much of a comedy, too much of a rom-com. It's more a rom-com and then also Christmas. It is a Christmas movie because there's a lot to do with Christmas rather than the other ones I talked about, Die Hard and Home Alone. But just too much of a rom-com. Deck the Halls, Jingle All the Way. They're good, but they're cliche and awkward and not great, and yeah. And the duo in Jingle All the Way, Matthew Broderick and Danny DeVito, is whack. I love that. Putting those two together was pretty fun. But those are all the honorable mentions. They are good, but they are not worthy to be on the list, so just know that. We're here. We made it. The number one best Christmas movie of all time is A Miracle on 34th Street from 1994. This is the remake. So just to put that out there, there is an original. This is one of the rare cases where the remake far surpasses the original, and in many ways cleans up the good idea but not well executed final product that are original movies. That doesn't happen too often. I think mostly I am very against remaking movies because that was a piece of art. I just don't think you should mess with it. Also, almost all the time they freaking ruin it. Karate Kid comes to mind, but there are so many other ones, countless. The current slate of movies is filled with remakes and reboots. I'm sure you can name a bunch. So, I mean, the one thing to say about that is sometimes there's older movies that are just way too old for modern kids and even modern adults to watch. So updating those movies and just using the modern technology and conventions and everything just to make sure that people can experience and watch and appreciate those stories is something to go with it. But usually that's not what happens. Usually they just absolutely fumble the bag. But like I said, there's a few rare cases where this works. Things coming to mind: Red Dawn and Footloose. Those movies, the original ideas were really good. More technology, Red Dawn. Footloose wasn't a lot of technology. Footloose was more just dancing conventions, and some of the acting was just not as good back then. So those both took the ideas and really squeezed out the best parts and upped the execution. And this Miracle on 34th Street does the exact same thing. This is another one that is a fantastic movie, on top of it being a fantastic Christmas movie. There's so much of it. It really brings Santa Claus and the magic of Christmas into our modern world. There's not really any explicit magic in this movie also. There's this real just kind of like hint at it but don't tell exactly what is going on. There's a lot of it that can be explained, right? So our main Santa Claus, right, goes by Kris Kringle. He knows sign language. You know, he could just be a learned man, or it's because he's Santa Claus, right? He got them a house at the end. It could be because he's magic, or it could just because he like kind of helped them finance a house or something like that, or it could be because he's Santa Claus. There's so many different ideas there. Although there is the one little problem of like, is he Santa Claus? Is he not? It leaves it ambiguous enough. But there's a few that's a little too much. I mean, he thinks he's Santa Claus, right? So is he crazy? I mean, the whole trial thing about, which I'm going to get into in a second, is that he's crazy. And I mean, is he? I don't know. Like, you know, he goes into court and talks about how the North Pole is in the dreamscape, or whatever. So it sounds a little crazy, unless he's Santa Claus. So that is a little bit iffy, but I think they pull with it just enough that you don't exactly know what's going on, and it's up to your interpretation, which is a good movie convention. So I'll leave that there. But again, it brings a lot of it in. You know, do people in the modern day believe in Santa Claus? If rationally acting people in our contemporary world are confronted with someone who says they're Santa Claus and the magic of Christmas, how are they going to believe it? How much proof are they going to need? How are they going to react? All those. And then it brings the loose magic and belief into collision with the hardcore, fact-centered, rational aspect of the law in our legal system. I think that is amazing. You know, I mean, I am in law school, so some of that is a little iffy. You know, I mean, there's a little bias there. A little bias there. I just love a lot of lawyer movies. You know, if you want me to do a lawyer movie episode, because there's some good ones there that I could definitely do. But I think that dynamic is fantastic. It squeezes out a lot of really uncomfortable but just awesome ideas. The whole scene at the end, I'm going to spoil it, I don't care. little girl gives, the judge doesn't want to rule against our Kris Kringle being crazy, but he doesn't know how he can under the laws of the state of New York. But then the little girl gives him a dollar bill, and he sees that it prints "In God We Trust." So if the U.S. government can put its faith in and put its like mark standard of approval, stamp of approval onto God, a deity that we have to believe in, then the state of New York can do the same thing with Santa Claus. Fantastic, so creative, so beautiful. In the original, it's they bring in a bunch of letters, and they're all postmarked the North Pole, so the post office recognizes Santa and the North Pole as a real place. I think this works even better, to be honest, a little bit more with the legal rationale in general, but also just a little bit better of a leap. And you can see, again, it's another aspect of how this remake does it better. In so many ways, just tightens everything up a little bit, you know? And then the last little piece before I kind of wrap this up is that the little girl, the child actor, is so freaking amazing. Just, oh my God. She is, kills it. She's just adorable, but she's also intelligent and witty and snarky and mature and just everything. She completes this movie. She makes this movie, you know, from the beginning, looking at the Macy's holiday parade, but her dad, her family won't get her out to deal with all this, and believing in people, not believing in her inner turmoil of struggling to come to grips with reality and belief and childhood and fantasy, all of this. And at the end, with her snarky little lines when they get the house and they get engaged and they get, and the baby took away, all this. Oh my God, just utterly magical. I could not give this movie a higher recommendation. If you're looking for something to watch, you know, you gotta be serious. I think this is not a put on in the background movie. This is a sit down and watch movie. Absolutely do it. Just do it, and you will be transfixed by the expertly woven plot of this classic of a movie. All right. That is everything. I am done with my best Christmas movie rankings. Tell me if you agree or disagree. I think it's pretty solid, to be honest. I'm a big Christmas guy, so I think I know what I'm talking about, but a lot of this is subjective. So I would love to hear from other people, but I love this time of year. Like I just said, I'm a huge Christmas guy. I do so many different traditions and everything, but one that I really love is I do a Lego advent calendar. This year I did Star Wars. I haven't done Star Wars in a while. I did some Marvel last year. I did City for a while because I just like how it's, you can make the towns and everything they do. But I did a Star Wars one this year and it was fun. Tell me about your holiday traditions if you have them. I'd love to hear about those. Every family has their own amazing ones. They're all great in their own right, but some are better than others. Mine are obviously the best. Just kidding. Let's wrap this up. Yeah, let's get out of here. I need to go do some Christmas stuff. I hope everyone has a great Christmas season, great New Year's and beyond, great holiday season if you don't celebrate it, great just December and end of the year if, I don't know if you're not celebrating anything or just to everybody. I hope everyone has a great end of their year. And yeah, I will be back with not amazing reviews next time, but some good ones. And then I think after the new year, I'll be able to get to see, watch and consume some really more up-to-date media over the this break here. And then when we get into the new year, I'll hit you with some really good stuff. All right, that's it for me. Signing off.